Most people believe victory begins when circumstances change, when the door opens, when the problem disappears, when the prayer is answered in a way they can finally recognize. Ibn Arabi pointed toward a deeper reality. He taught that what Allah decrees does not wait for human recognition to become real. There are triumphs taking shape while the soul still feels tested. There are outcomes being prepared while the mind remains occupied with obstacles. The unseen is not empty. It is active, with divine wisdom, arrangements, and possibilities beyond imagination. What if the struggle you fear is not preventing your victory, but carrying you toward it? What if the outcome has already been secured in ways you cannot yet perceive? Tonight, we uncover 7 profound realities that reveal why your victory may already exist long before your eyes are able to witness it. The day the soul learns that reality is larger than circumstances. There comes a moment in the spiritual journey when a person begins realizing that what they see is not the whole of reality. Until that moment, the heart often judges life according to visible circumstances. If the path appears blocked, it assumes there is no way forward. If a prayer remains unanswered, it assumes nothing is happening. If a difficulty continues for a long time, it begins imagining that the situation itself defines the future. Yet Ibn Arabi taught that visible circumstances are only a small portion of a much larger reality. Human beings live within a world of appearances. They see events as they unfold in front of them. They see the closed door, the delay, the uncertainty, and the obstacle. Allah, however, sees every connection, every consequence, every hidden wisdom, and every future outcome at once. What appears impossible to a limited perspective may already be moving toward resolution within the divine wisdom of Allah. The soul struggles because it naturally wants evidence before trust. It wants to see the answer before believing it exists. It wants to understand the path before taking the next step. But the spiritual journey teaches a different lesson. The unseen does not become real when we recognize it. It is already real. Our recognition simply arrives later. Imagine a traveler walking through a valley surrounded by mountains. From where they stand, there appears to be no road ahead. Every direction seems blocked. The traveler may become discouraged because their vision is limited to what they can currently see. Yet someone observing from above can see the entire landscape. They can see the road winding behind the mountain. They can see the destination waiting beyond the horizon. The road exists, even though the traveler cannot yet perceive it. Ibn Arabi believed that many people experience life in a similar way. They become trapped within the limits of immediate perception. They judge the future according to present conditions. They assume that because they cannot see a solution does not exist. Yet Allah's wisdom is not confined to what the human mind can calculate. There are arrangements taking shape beyond the reach of ordinary perception. There are opportunities being prepared, hearts being changed, circumstances being aligned, and outcomes being written long before they become visible. This realization changes the way a person relates to hardship. The difficulty itself may remain. The waiting may continue. The uncertainty may not immediately disappear. Yet the soul begins understanding that circumstances do not possess the final authority. A closed door today does not determine what Allah can open tomorrow. A delay does not determine destiny. An obstacle does not determine the outcome. The heart gradually learns that visible reality is not the only reality. There is also the reality of Allah's wisdom, the reality of His knowledge, the reality of His decree, the reality of His power to create pathways where none appear to exist. This awareness does not remove effort or responsibility. The believer continues striving, praying, and taking action. Yet they stop measuring possibilities solely according to what they can currently observe. They begin leaving room for divine possibilities that exceed human expectation. Many of the greatest transformations in a person's life begin long before any outward evidence appears. The answer may already be approaching, while the person believes nothing is changing. The victory may already be taking shape, while the struggle continues. The opening may already exist within Allah's decree, while the door still appears closed in the visible world. This is the day the soul learns that reality is larger than circumstances. It learns that what the eyes see is only part of the story. It learns that Allah's wisdom is active, even when His plans remain hidden. And it learns that what appears impossible in the visible world may already be resolved within a reality far greater than human sight can perceive. The hidden future, moving toward you, right now. Human beings naturally experience life from a single point in time. We stand in the present and try to understand the future using only what we can currently see. If opportunities appear limited, we assume possibilities are limited. If circumstances seem unchanged, we assume nothing is moving. If the answer to a prayer has not yet appeared, we imagine that the answer is still far away. Yet Ibn Arabi taught that reality is far more dynamic than the human mind realizes. What we call the future is not an empty space waiting to be created. It is a reality known completely by Allah. Long before a person witnesses an outcome, Allah already knows every event, every meeting, every opening, and every moment that will eventually lead to its arrival. This means that many of the things a person is waiting for may already be moving toward them, even while they remain unaware of it. A prayer may have been made months ago, and the person assumes nothing has changed. Yet somewhere beyond their perception, circumstances have already begun shifting. A conversation may be taking place between people they have never met. A door may be quietly opening in a place they have never seen. A sequence of events may already be unfolding that will eventually bring the answer closer. The servant sees stillness. Allah sees movement. The servant sees delay. Allah sees preparation. The servant sees an unfinished chapter. Allah sees the entire story. Ibn Arabi often reflected upon the limitations of human perception. He understood that people tend to judge reality according to immediate evidence. They become discouraged because they cannot see progress. They lose hope because they cannot identify change. Yet the absence of visible movement does not mean the absence of movement itself. Consider a seed placed beneath the earth. Nothing appears to happen. The ground looks unchanged. The surface remains quiet. An observer may conclude that growth has not begun. Yet beneath the soil, an entire process is already underway. Roots are forming. Structures are developing. Life is emerging in hidden ways long before the first sign appears above the surface. Many of Allah's decrees unfold in a similar manner. The visible result often arrives last. The preparation begins much earlier. A person may spend months or years believing they are simply waiting, while in reality they are standing inside a process already moving toward completion. The challenge is that human beings are rarely shown the hidden stages. They are shown the outcome when it becomes visible, but not the countless arrangements that preceded it. This is why trust becomes so important. The soul must learn that divine activity is not limited to what it can observe. Allah is capable of preparing answers through pathways the mind could never predict. He can bring change through people you have never met. He can create opportunities from circumstances that currently appear unrelated. He can transform a situation through events that seem insignificant when they first occur. Ibn Arabi believed that one of the marks of spiritual maturity is the ability to trust in hidden movement. The person stops assuming that visible stillness means divine inactivity. They stop believing that nothing is happening simply because nothing is happening in a way they can recognize. Instead, the heart begins leaving room for possibilities beyond its calculations. This does not mean abandoning effort. The believer continues praying, continues striving, continues trusting, yet they understand that Allah's work often begins long before its results become visible. There is a profound comfort in this realization. Many people exhaust themselves by constantly searching for evidence that their prayers are being answered. They want immediate reassurance, they want immediate signs, they want immediate clarity. Yet Allah's wisdom often unfolds differently. The answer may already exist in its early stages. The path may already be forming. The victory may already be approaching. The soul simply has not reached the moment where it becomes visible. This awareness changes how a person experiences waiting. Waiting no longer feels empty. Waiting becomes part of the process. The person realizes that hidden preparation is still preparation. Invisible movement is still movement. Unseen arrangements are still arrangements. The future they long for may already be traveling toward them through pathways only Allah can see. And when the unveiling finally arrives, they often discover something astonishing. What appeared to be a delay was never truly delayed. What appeared to be inactivity was never inactivity. Allah had been working all along, guiding events, aligning circumstances, preparing hearts, opening doors, and carrying the answer closer with every passing moment. This is the hidden future moving toward you right now, a future already known by Allah, a future already held within His wisdom, a future that may be far nearer than the soul realizes, even while the eyes continue seeing only the present moment. Why the final test often arrives before the opening. There is a pattern that appears again and again throughout the spiritual journey, yet many people fail to recognize it while they are living through it. A person struggles for a long time. They pray, they remain patient, they continue hoping. Then, just when they feel they have reached the limit of their strength, the difficulty seems to intensify. The challenge becomes heavier, the waiting becomes longer, the uncertainty becomes deeper. At that moment, many assume they are moving further away from the answer. Ibn Arabi taught that the opposite may sometimes be true. The soul may actually be standing closer to the opening than it realizes. Human beings often imagine that progress toward a blessing should feel increasingly comfortable. They expect obstacles to gradually disappear. They expect the path to become easier. They expect clear signs to appear, announcing that relief is near. Yet Allah's wisdom frequently unfolds through a different pattern. The final stage before an opening often contains a test, unlike the earlier ones. Not because Allah wishes to burden the servant unnecessarily, but because He is completing something within the soul before revealing what has already been prepared. Many people focus entirely upon the blessing they are waiting to receive. They rarely consider the person they must become in order to carry that blessing properly. A heart that is not prepared can be overwhelmed by what it once desired. A soul that has not been strengthened can misuse what it once prayed for. An individual who has not developed trust can become attached to the gift and forget the giver. For this reason, Allah often prepares the servant before revealing the outcome. The preparation may take the form of patience. It may take the form of surrender. It may take the form of deeper reliance upon Him. Sometimes the final test is not about the difficulty itself. It is about what remains inside the heart. A person may begin their journey trusting Allah only when circumstances appear favorable. Through hardship, they learn how to trust Him when circumstances provide no reassurance. A person may begin praying because they desire a specific outcome. Through waiting, they learn how to remain devoted even before that outcome appears. These lessons are precious because they create a foundation that will remain long after the trial has ended. Ibn Arabi understood that Allah's concern is not limited to changing circumstances. He is also shaping souls. While the servant focuses on the opening ahead, Allah may be focusing on the transformation taking place within. This is why the final test often feels different from earlier difficulties. It reaches deeper. It challenges deeper attachments. It exposes deeper fears. The person may discover that they are being invited to release the last remnants of dependence upon worldly certainty. They are being invited to trust Allah, not because they can see the answer approaching, but because they know the one who controls the answer. There is a profound wisdom hidden in this stage. When everything appears uncertain, the heart is forced to choose where it will place its confidence. Will it depend entirely upon visible evidence, or will it rest in the knowledge that Allah's wisdom remains active even when evidence is absent? This choice transforms the soul. The person begins moving from conditional trust to unconditional trust. They stop saying, "I trust Allah because I can see signs of improvement." They begin saying, "I trust Allah because He is Allah." This shift marks a significant moment in the spiritual journey. Many openings are preceded by this transformation. The servant reaches a point where their relationship with Allah becomes more important than the outcome they are seeking. Their faith becomes less dependent upon circumstances. Their peace becomes less dependent upon immediate answers. The heart is ready. Ready not only for the blessing, ready for the wisdom contained within the blessing, ready for the responsibility that may accompany it, ready to receive it without becoming consumed by it. Ibn Arabi believed that divine wisdom often prepares both the gift and the recipient simultaneously. While the servant waits for the blessing, Allah is preparing the soul. While the soul is being refined, the blessing is being arranged. Both journeys move together until the appointed moment arrives. This is why many people later look back upon their most difficult seasons with a different understanding. What once felt like unnecessary delay reveals itself as preparation. What once felt like abandonment reveals itself as refinement. What once felt like the darkest stage of the journey reveals itself as the final shaping before the opening appeared. The remarkable thing is that the soul rarely recognizes this while it is happening. Only later does it see how perfectly the pieces fit together. Only later does it understand why the test intensified before the relief arrived. Only later does it realize that Allah was not pushing the blessing further away. He was bringing the soul closer to being ready for it. This is the mystery of the final test. It is not always a sign that victory is distant. Sometimes it is evidence that the opening is nearer than ever before. The difficulty reaches its greatest intensity because the preparation is reaching its completion. The soul is being strengthened, the heart is being purified, the trust is being deepened, and behind the veil of uncertainty, Allah may already be preparing to reveal what was written long before the servant knew it was coming. The invisible threads connecting today's struggle to tomorrow's victory. One of the greatest difficulties human beings face is that they experience life one moment at a time. They see today's problem, today's disappointment, today's uncertainty, and today's obstacle. Because they are standing inside the event itself, they naturally judge it according to its immediate appearance. If something feels painful, they assume it serves no purpose. If something interrupts their plans, they assume it is standing in the way of progress. If something arrives unexpectedly, they often view it as an unwanted complication. Yet Ibn Arabi taught that reality is woven together through connections that the human mind rarely perceives while events are unfolding. What appears isolated today may be connected to something extraordinary tomorrow. A meeting that seems insignificant, a delay that feels frustrating, a disappointment that appears meaningless, a closed door that causes confusion. All of these experiences may belong to a larger design whose purpose remains hidden until much later. The soul struggles because it wants immediate understanding. It wants every event to explain itself as soon as it arrives. It wants to know why something happened before it has completed its work. Yet divine wisdom often reveals meaning only after a sequence of events has reached completion. Imagine looking at the backside of a great tapestry. From that perspective, the threads appear tangled, colors cross in unexpected directions, patterns seem incomplete. Certain sections appear disconnected from everything around them. To the observer, the design makes little sense. Then the tapestry is turned around. Suddenly, every thread reveals its purpose. The colors fit together. The crossings make sense. The apparent confusion reveals hidden order. Ibn Arabi believed that many experiences in life resemble this hidden side of the tapestry. While we are living through them, we see only fragments. We see individual events without seeing how they connect. We see interruptions without seeing where they lead. We see losses without seeing what they are preparing. Only Allah sees the entire pattern from beginning to end. A person may lose an opportunity and spend months grieving it. Later, that loss leads them to a different path, a different city, a different relationship, or a different purpose that would never have been discovered otherwise. At the time, the disappointment appeared unrelated to future blessings. Looking back, the connection becomes obvious. Someone may encounter a difficult person who tests their patience. Years later, they realize that experience developed a strength they desperately needed for a future responsibility. Another person may endure a season of loneliness that feels unnecessary. Later, they discover that solitude taught them how to rely upon Allah in ways they could never have learned while surrounded by constant support. These connections are often invisible while they are being formed. That is why trust becomes so important. The servant is asked to trust the One, weaving them together. This perspective changes the way a person views present struggles. Instead of seeing every difficulty as an isolated event, they begin recognizing the possibility that it belongs to a larger story. The challenge may still be painful, the uncertainty may still be uncomfortable, yet the soul becomes less quick to declare an experience meaningless. It begins leaving room for hidden wisdom. There is another important dimension to this reality. Many victories are built from pieces that initially appear unrelated. A skill learned during hardship, a lesson gained through failure, a relationship formed unexpectedly, a door that closed, a road that changed direction. Each element may seem independent when viewed alone, yet years later, the person discovers that every piece contributed to an outcome they never could have created through their own planning. This is because Allah's wisdom does not operate according to human limitations. Human beings tend to think in straight lines. They expect direct connections between causes and results. Allah can create outcomes through countless pathways at once. He can use events that appear unrelated and weave them together into a single purpose. The servant sees separate incidents. Allah sees one design. The servant sees confusion. Allah sees completion. The servant sees scattered pieces. Allah sees the finished picture. This realization creates patience. Not passive patience, but hopeful patience. The person continues striving, praying, and taking action, yet they stop demanding immediate explanations for everything they experience. They understand that some meanings can only be understood after enough time has passed for the pattern to emerge. Ibn Arabi often emphasized that divine wisdom exceeds human calculation. What appears random may be arranged. What appears delayed may be perfectly timed. What appears disconnected may already be linked through threads the soul cannot yet perceive. There is tremendous comfort in this understanding. It means today's struggle does not need to explain itself immediately. It means today's confusion is not proof that life lacks direction. It means today's hardship may already be contributing to tomorrow's victory. The answer may not arrive through a single event. It may arrive through a series of experiences that gradually prepare the path. Each conversation, each setback, each lesson, each delay, each unexpected turn, all of them may be participating in something greater. And when the unveiling finally comes, many people discover a remarkable truth. The victory they were praying for was not created in a single moment. It was being woven together through countless invisible threads all along. threads that connected today's struggle to tomorrow's triumph, long before the soul was capable of seeing how perfectly they belong together. When Allah uses uncertainty to build unshakable trust. There are seasons in life when certainty seems to disappear from every direction. A person does not know what comes next. The future feels hidden. Important questions remain unanswered. Plans that once seemed clear become uncertain. Doors remain closed, and the path forward appears covered by a veil that the mind cannot penetrate. These are often the moments people fear the most. The human being naturally seeks clarity. They want to know where they are going. They want to understand how things will unfold. They want reassurance that their efforts will succeed and that their prayers will eventually be answered. When certainty is present, the heart feels comfortable. When certainty disappears, anxiety often takes its place. Yet Ibn Arabi taught that some of the most important work Allah performs within a soul takes place during these very periods of uncertainty. What feels like confusion may actually be a hidden classroom. What feels like waiting may actually be preparation. What feels like standing still may be one of the most significant stages of the entire journey. The reason is simple. Trust cannot fully develop while certainty controls everything. When a person can already see the outcome, trust is easier. When the road ahead is visible, confidence comes naturally. When success appears likely, hope requires little effort. But what happens when the outcome is hidden? What happens when the person can no longer rely upon visible evidence? This is where a deeper kind of trust begins emerging. Ibn Arabi understood that Allah sometimes removes excessive certainty from a person's life, so that the heart learns to depend upon Him rather than upon predictions. Many people place their security in plans. They place their peace in calculations. They place their confidence in what they believe will happen next. Then life changes. The plan no longer works. The calculation becomes unreliable. The prediction fails. The person is left standing before the unknown. This feels frightening. Yet beneath the discomfort lies a profound opportunity. The soul begins discovering whether its trust was truly in Allah or merely in favorable circumstances. This distinction changes everything. A person may believe they trust Allah while life is unfolding according to expectation. The real depth of that trust often becomes visible when expectations collapse. Can the heart still remain hopeful when the answer is hidden? Can it still continue praying when no evidence appears? Can it still move forward when it cannot see the destination? These questions are not punishments, they are invitations. Invitations into a deeper relationship with Allah. Many people imagine that trust is a feeling. Ibn Arabi saw trust as something more substantial. It is a way of standing before reality. It is the ability to continue relying upon Allah even when the mind lacks explanations. It is the willingness to remain faithful to divine wisdom even when immediate understanding is unavailable. This kind of trust is not created overnight. It is built gradually, and uncertainty becomes one of its greatest teachers. Every unanswered question becomes an opportunity to rely more deeply upon Allah. Every delay becomes an opportunity to strengthen patience. Every hidden outcome becomes an opportunity to remember that Allah's knowledge extends beyond human perception. The remarkable thing is that these uncertain seasons often prepare the soul for future victories in ways that become visible only later. Imagine a person who receives a blessing without first learning trust. Their peace remains dependent upon the blessing itself. If circumstances change, their stability disappears. But a person who learns trust during uncertainty carries that trust into every future blessing. Their peace becomes rooted in Allah rather than in changing conditions. This makes them stronger, more balanced, more resilient, more capable of carrying success without becoming dependent upon it. Ibn Arabi believed that Allah is not only preparing outcomes, He is preparing people. The servant focuses on the victory ahead. Allah focuses on the soul that will receive that victory. The blessing may already be written, but the heart must be ready for it. The waiting often contributes to that readiness. The uncertainty often contributes to that readiness. The confusion often contributes to that readiness. What feels like delay may actually be construction. Construction taking place within the soul. A foundation is being built, and foundations are rarely visible while they are being formed. When builders create a structure, much of the most important work happens beneath the surface. The foundation receives little attention because it cannot be seen. Yet without it, the building cannot stand. The same principle applies to spiritual growth. Trust becomes the foundation. Patience becomes the foundation. Reliance upon Allah becomes the foundation. And these qualities are often developed most deeply during seasons when certainty has been removed. Years later, many people look back and realize that their strongest faith was not built during moments of ease. It was built during periods when they had no choice but to rely upon Allah. It was built when they could not see the future. It was built when answers remained hidden. It was built when all visible support seemed insufficient. Those difficult seasons created something lasting, something stronger than immediate relief. They created trust. This is why uncertainty should not always be viewed as an obstacle standing between the soul and victory. Sometimes uncertainty is part of the path leading toward victory. Sometimes it is the very environment in which Allah develops the qualities necessary for the next chapter of life. The person may spend months asking, "Why can I not see what is coming?" while Allah is preparing them to stand firmly when it arrives. The person may spend years longing for certainty, while Allah is teaching them something even greater than certainty. Trust, a trust that does not depend upon visible proof, a trust that remains steady when circumstances fluctuate, a trust that survives delays, confusion, and unanswered questions. And when the victory finally appears, the person often discovers that the greatest gift was not only the outcome they received, it was the unshakable trust that Allah built within them while they were waiting for it. That trust becomes the foundation upon which every future blessing can safely rest, and without realizing it, the uncertainty they once feared became one of the greatest acts of preparation Allah ever gave them. The secret preparation taking place inside the soul. When people pray for a blessing, their attention naturally turns toward the thing they hope to receive. They think about the opportunity they want, the difficulty they want removed, the door they want opened, or the answer they long to see appear in their lives. Their focus remains fixed upon the outcome. They measure progress according to visible changes and often become discouraged when those changes do not arrive as quickly as expected. Yet Ibn Arabi taught that Allah's wisdom frequently operates in a deeper way. While the servant is focused on the blessing ahead, Allah may be focused on the soul that will eventually receive that blessing. Before certain gifts arrive, a hidden preparation often begins. The person may not recognize it because it is taking place within them rather than around them. This preparation is among the most overlooked realities of the spiritual journey. Many people assume that waiting means nothing is happening. In reality, some of the most important changes may already be unfolding. The heart is being shaped, the character is being refined, the vision is being corrected, the priorities are being rearranged. The person is becoming someone capable of carrying what is coming. This is important because not every blessing can be safely entrusted to an unprepared heart. A person may pray for influence, but without humility, that influence could become a source of pride. A person may pray for success, but without wisdom, that success could become a distraction. A person may pray for abundance, but without gratitude, that abundance could create forgetfulness. A person may pray for a new chapter, but without maturity, they may repeat the same mistakes that troubled the previous one. Allah sees what the servant cannot see. He sees not only the blessing, He sees the responsibility attached to it. He sees the opportunities it will create. He sees the challenges it will bring. And because he sees the whole picture, he often prepares the soul before revealing the gift. Ibn Arabi understood that divine generosity is not measured merely by giving. Sometimes divine generosity appears through preparation. The servant may think they are being delayed, while Allah is actually protecting them from receiving something before they are ready for it. Imagine placing a precious treasure into weak hands. The treasure itself is valuable, but the hands may not yet have the strength to hold it properly. The problem is not the treasure. The problem is readiness. Many of Allah's blessings require inner growth before they can be fully appreciated, protected, and used correctly. This growth often takes place quietly. The person may not notice it while it is happening. They simply continue living through challenges, prayers, disappointments, and moments of reflection. Yet beneath the surface, something significant is changing. Their patience becomes deeper. Their understanding becomes broader. Their dependence upon Allah becomes stronger. Their attachment to temporary things becomes weaker. The soul begins developing qualities that will prove essential in the future. Often, the person only recognizes these changes when they look back. They realize that years earlier, they would not have handled a certain blessing wisely. They would have become arrogant. They would have become careless. They would have become distracted. Now, after the journey they have traveled, they possess a different perspective. The blessing can arrive without controlling them. This is one of the hidden mercies of Allah. He does not merely prepare blessings for people, He prepares people for blessings. Ibn Arabi frequently emphasized that the spiritual journey is not only about obtaining what the soul desires. It is about becoming who the soul was meant to become. Sometimes, the transformation itself is more important than the thing being sought. A person may spend years praying for a particular outcome. During those years, they learn trust, patience, sincerity, humility, reliance upon Allah. When the blessing finally arrives, they realize that these qualities are among the greatest gifts they received. Without them, the blessing would not have carried the same meaning. Without them, the blessing might even have become a burden. There is another reason Allah often works within the soul before changing external circumstances. Human beings tend to believe that happiness comes primarily from obtaining what they want. Yet many people receive exactly what they once prayed for and still feel empty because their inner condition has not changed. The outer blessing arrives, the inner readiness does not. The heart continues searching. Allah's wisdom addresses this problem at its root. He often heals the heart while preparing the answer. He strengthens the soul while arranging the opening. He develops character while preparing the opportunity. This creates a harmony between the gift and the recipient. The blessing arrives at the moment the soul is capable of receiving it with gratitude, wisdom, and balance. The remarkable thing is that much of this preparation happens during periods that appear unproductive. Seasons of waiting, seasons of uncertainty, seasons of unanswered questions. The servant sees delay, Allah sees development. The servant sees a closed door, Allah sees a workshop. Inside that workshop, fears are being confronted, attachments are being loosened, trust is being strengthened, perception is being purified. The person is becoming different, not through dramatic events, through gradual transformation. And gradual transformation often lasts longer than sudden change. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah's deepest work frequently occurs in hidden places. The world notices visible victories. Allah often begins with invisible preparation. Long before the opening appears, long before the answer becomes clear, long before circumstances change, the soul itself begins changing. This is the secret preparation taking place inside the soul. A preparation that may be unfolding right now, even if no outward evidence is visible. A preparation that ensures the heart will not merely receive the blessing, but will be capable of carrying it. And when the long-awaited answer finally arrives, many people discover a surprising truth. The blessing was not the only thing Allah had been preparing. He had also been preparing them, and that preparation was part of the answer all along. The victory that was quietly approaching all along. There is a realization that arrives late for many people, yet when it arrives, it changes the way they understand their entire journey. They look back over months or years of waiting and suddenly see something they could not see while they were living through it. What they once called delay was not empty time. What they once called stagnation was not true stagnation. What they once believed was a period of unanswered prayers was actually a period filled with movement, preparation, and divine activity. Ibn Arabi taught that human beings often misunderstand the nature of waiting. They imagine that if they cannot see visible progress, then progress is not occurring. They assume that if the answer has not arrived, then the answer has not begun. They believe that victory starts on the day circumstances finally change. Yet victory often begins long before that moment. The visible result is frequently the final chapter of a process that has been unfolding for a long time. A tree does not become tall on the day people first notice it. Its growth began much earlier. Long before branches appeared above the ground, roots were spreading beneath the surface. Long before fruit became visible, a hidden process was already underway. The same principle often applies to the blessings Allah prepares for His servants. The person sees only the day the door opens. Allah sees every step that led to its opening. The person sees the answer arrive. Allah sees every arrangement, every lesson, every encounter, and every moment of preparation that made that answer possible. This is why many people later discover that their victory was approaching even during the moments when they felt furthest from it. The difficult season was not preventing the answer, it was contributing to it. The waiting was not blocking the outcome, it was helping shape it. The uncertainty was not evidence of abandonment, it was part of the journey toward fulfillment. Ibn Arabi understood that Allah's wisdom often works beneath the level of immediate perception. A person may spend years focused on a single prayer, while countless events are unfolding around them. People are meeting, circumstances are changing, hearts are being guided, opportunities are being prepared, lessons are being learned. The soul itself is being transformed. Yet because these developments happen gradually, the servant may not recognize them. They continue looking at what has not happened yet. They continue measuring progress according to what they can see. Meanwhile, Allah's decree continues moving toward its appointed moment. There is something profoundly comforting about this understanding. It means that not every season of waiting is truly a season of delay. Sometimes it is a season of approach. The destination may be drawing closer, even when the traveler cannot yet recognize it. A person standing before the ocean cannot see a ship that has already begun its journey from beyond the horizon. To their eyes, nothing appears to be coming. Yet the ship is moving with every passing moment. Its arrival is becoming more certain with every mile traveled, even though it remains invisible. Many of Allah's answers arrive in a similar way. The servant sees an empty horizon. Allah sees the answer already in motion. The servant sees absence. Allah sees approach. The servant sees silence. Allah sees preparation. This perspective changes the meaning of patience. Patience is no longer merely enduring a delay. It becomes trusting a movement that cannot yet be seen. The soul begins understanding that hidden progress is still progress. Invisible preparation is still preparation. The fact that something has not appeared does not mean it has not begun. Ibn Arabi often emphasized that Allah's timing is never random. Every event arrives at its appointed moment. Every opening appears when its conditions have been fulfilled. Every blessing comes when both the blessing and the recipient are ready for one another. This is why the answer often feels so perfectly timed when it finally arrives. The person realizes that receiving it earlier would not have been beneficial. Certain lessons were still missing. Certain strengths were still developing. Certain understandings were still forming. The waiting itself contributed to the fulfillment. The path and the destination were never separate. This realization creates a new relationship with the past. The person stops viewing difficult years as wasted years. They stop seeing periods of uncertainty as meaningless chapters. They begin recognizing how every experience contributed something essential to the outcome that eventually emerged. The closed doors redirected them, the setbacks taught them, the disappointments refined them, the waiting strengthened them, the uncertainty deepened their trust. Everything participated in the journey. Everything carried a purpose. This is why many people, after receiving what they once prayed for, speak differently about their struggles. They no longer see those struggles as obstacles standing in the way of victory. They see them as part of the victory itself. Without those experiences, they would not have become who they needed to become. Without those lessons, they would not have appreciated what eventually arrived. Without that preparation, the blessing would not have carried the same meaning. The remarkable truth is that Allah was not simply preparing the answer. He was preparing the entire path leading to the answer. Every step had a role. Every chapter had a purpose. Every delay contained movement. And when the unveiling finally comes, the soul discovers a truth that Ibn Arabi pointed toward throughout his teachings. The victory was never absent. It was never forgotten. It was never standing still. It was quietly approaching all along, hidden behind circumstances, hidden behind uncertainty, hidden behind lessons the soul had not yet understood. And when the appointed moment arrives, the servant finally sees what Allah had always known, that what felt like delay was actually guidance, what felt like waiting was actually preparation, and what felt like distance from fulfillment was, in reality, a hidden movement toward it from the very beginning. The soul then understands something it could not understand before. Allah was working even when nothing appeared to be happening. The decree was moving even when the road seemed empty. And the victory had already begun long before the eyes were able to witness its arrival. Ibn Arabi taught that the soul sees only fragments, while Allah sees the whole design. There are chapters that feel uncertain because the story is still unfolding beyond the limits of our vision. Yet every sincere prayer, every moment of patience, and every step taken in trust becomes part of a reality larger than we can measure. If victory has not appeared, do not assume it does not exist. The unseen has its own timing, its own wisdom, and its own pathways. Many souls discover that what they feared was delay was actually preparation. And when the unveiling finally comes, they realize that Allah was guiding them toward their victory from the very beginning.